technology showcase by Rapid Nexus.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you, although I can't see you. It's too bright up here. I'd like to introduce to you the world's first neuropathy healing and peri-wound healing product. We made a technology that is aimed at the diabetic population who suffer from chronic non-healing wounds. And the reason that this technology was developed is to prevent amputations. In the US alone, there are 1,380 amputations every day. Just because someone has diabetes, we're not counting people that have accidents, simply because people have diabetes and they're unable to heal. The market problem is very simple. The industry makes products to plug up the hole. When you make products to plug up this hole, you're not effectively making a product for the diabetic patients, because their problem is actually surrounding that wound. Their problem is neuropathy, and due to neuropathy, much like a patient in a wheelchair that has a spinal cord injury, neuropathy is similar. It's a nerve injury. And so people in a wheelchair, for example, their legs get smaller. Why? Because they don't get the impulses from the nerves into the legs. Also atrophy, but the legs get smaller. Same thing with these patients. Their peri-wound surrounding the wound actually shrinks, loses volume, and becomes inactive. This is a very high unmet medical need. Healthcare in the United States spends $360 billion a year treating these patients. That's because they have non-healing wounds. The wounds fester for years, sometimes decades. At any point in that time, the patient can receive a toe, a foot, or a leg amputation. There are 20 million patients suffering from neuropathy in the US, and 6 million that experience non-healing wounds. Pre-pandemic, we had 500 amputations per day. Post-pandemic, we're up to 1,380 amputations. The reason is during the pandemic, people have been afraid to go into the doctor, so their wounds became worse. Also, diabetes has increased in number, elderly have increased in number, and the obese population as well. So the solution is based on electromagnetic principles. We are not following chemical or biological principles in silos. We have made a system that's an electrical chemical system, and the product contains, it's a gel product, it contains nutrients, it contains also antimicrobials, and the handpiece delivers the electrical stimulation. The tissue that delivers the electrical stimulation is inert, unable to heal, so we are aiding the healing process. Also, we are depositing the raw material into the tissue where it is assembled inside the peri-wound space. That way we make the peri-wound active, able to heal, increase its volume and density. So this patient took us 40 weeks to complete in our early days. And this patient was diagnosed for an amputation. He decided that he's going to enroll in our study because his mother also had an amputation. She passed away shortly thereafter. So he was seeking a different solution. So he enrolled in our study, told us 3 other friends of his from the hospital had undergone amputations and actually passed away. So the life cycle of a diabetic patient with a chronic wound is a very difficult one. They are unable to heal. They live with an open wound. At any point in time, it could get infected. Infection can lead to sepsis, and so an amputation is diagnosed for them. In our feasibility study of 39 patients, we enrolled patients that are of the very high complex Wagner group, and these were Wagner 2, 3, and 4 cases. Just to give you an example, clinical trials by industry are being done on Wagner 1 and 2 cases. These are very easily predicted to heal. So a company may invest $1 million in clinical trials, pick the patient population where they could find the best healing results. However, the diabetic patients are going without a healing product because of this type of scenario. My background is actually oral surgery. I made a product that is 500% faster in healing. It heals bone and tissue. And when I met a gentleman that had all of his limbs amputated because he had diabetes and non-healing limbs, it was one of those moments where, when you believe that you can do something and you don't do anything about it, then, how can you move on into another field selling products when these patients are actually passing away? So I took it upon myself. I hired a team in Costa Rica and took 2.5 years to transfer this technology into this space. The patients that we enrolled were 2 groups of 39 patients, one group of 17 and another group of 22, so altogether 39 patients. They had previously undergone the standard of care using standard of care products and antibiotics when they were enrolled in our study. And all of the patients enrolled had diabetes. A lot of them also had poor nutrition, dementia, aging, and peripheral vascular disease. So our patients, after this feasibility study, they started telling us that they're feeling their limbs again. They're feeling their toes. We were very excited about that. So now what we are doing is we're conducting another clinical trial, and we are doing before and after biopsies to actually do a nerve count. When we look at this limb here, we can say safely that if this patient had their feeling restored in their limb, and he's reporting this in the questionnaire, then we can safely assume, yes, there is some nerve involvement. We want to see how much nerve involvement is there also. We want to see, is there muscular involvement? So we're also conducting, at this time, a diabetic rat study, where we're taking a piece of the muscle off of the scapula. We'll have those results before the holidays. We're also doing nanostring study on a diabetic mouse to get all of the gene information about the exact mechanism of action. So we have a big savings to the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry is spending a lot of money on a single patient. Let's take it through, and if we count the amount of chronic wound healing that they're receiving, it goes on for years, and add those costs. And if they get an amputation, that's about $100,000. If they get a limb replacement, that's another $100,000. You add all those costs together with all those years of treatment, and by the way, they get recurrent amputations. And so the cost is tremendous. It's a $380,000 cost. If they were to use our system, there's a tremendous savings. We'd be able to close that patient in under $10,000. This is just a little graph just to show you the patient experience and the insurance experience. So patients, they go through phases of treatment. All along every single phase of treatment, they're very afraid of an infection because it could lead to sepsis. Doctors are worried about that as well. Insurance companies will pay $50,000 yearly to do treatment on the patients, $18,000 if they have to go into a hyperbaric chamber, which, by the way, doesn't prevent these amputations either. And the cycle keeps on going. There's a little bit of description of the amputations as well. and their cost, $120,000 per amputation, and a lot of recurrent. This case was diagnosed for a partial toe amputation. We did 2 appointments of 45 minutes and averted that amputation. The pictures that you see in the before photo is before treatment. The same day, the second photo to the right is after treatment and after removal some of the loose necrotic tissue that was generated during the treatment. The next photo is a photo 1 week later. Another treatment was done. So only 2 treatments of 45 minutes, and 3 months later, you see the photo to the far right, that amputation has been averted. This patient is the original, same one that I showed earlier, but this shows it a little bit more in stages. And here we can see the peri-wound neuropathy changes. This is what makes us believe that we do have those nerve changes, especially when the patient reports that they have feeling in their limb where they didn't before treatment. As I mentioned, we have more studies underway to specifically tell us how many nerves we're growing and if we're generating muscle as well. This was, I think, the worst patient that has showed up for our study. He exhibited 2 wounds on the same leg, and the circulation was cut off by the knee. He was riding horses, doing farming, and the buckle kept on hitting him below the knee. The circulation went offline there, big gap, and the entire leg turned very dark. So I'll just be going through the sequence of what we did. Pardon me I should have mentioned that this was going to show a lot of pictures of wounds. So this is, during treatment, one of the things that became apparent to us is this patient is able to do this treatment at home. So when I was not in Costa Rica, I was instructing him from long distance what to do. He easily did the treatment himself. And as we go through, we notice that the foot is now turning into a normal color. And then there's pink that's starting to spread. So we averted his amputation. This is the other side of his leg. The other thing that is happening here is we are actually healing this without a graft. These patients are not eligible for grafts, number 1. And these wounds are closing from inside up and from the borders inwards. This is my favorite picture. It has me enamored. I keep on looking at this because to me, these blue areas are circulation. These are filled with blood. And there are many layers that I could see in this. And this is why we're doing the rat and the mouse studies now and the biopsy studies to identify what's happening underneath. And as the healing progresses, then we start seeing the changes in the peri-wound. Effectively, he ended up with a very strong leg after treatment, and he regained his sensation in his leg. So our team is myself and my co-founder. I have run practices and sold businesses for probably about 20 years. I've had 5 exits. My team co-founder, she's had 3 exits. All of those were with me. Our advisory board member comes from a space of medical device, and he's grown 8 companies and has been able to help get them acquired. His expertise is commercialization. and also Mr. Deepak Yahu, who we're very excited is on our team right now because he sold Kerecis for $1.3 billion last year. He comes from Elira Health, that he co-founded. Now he's on his own. And so together, we are working very hard to bring the solution to the patients. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is I'm glad I sat in on this presentation just before, because when we look at this patient right here, I'd like to tell you about our future plans. So right now, our plans are to get the wound system into into commercialization, into the market. We have a pathway of codes that already exist separately on the 510K of the wound healing product and the 510K of the medical device. And additionally, we're following a breakthrough designation path where we put the two devices together and we get new data. And this is what this generation of the nerve and muscle data is all about, is for our breakthrough designation de novo pathway. In the future, we would like to use this product on patients that have not developed wounds yet. If someone has diabetes and they start exhibiting neuropathy, we could get this to them earlier rather than later, before a wound opens up, and have a treatment course for them throughout their lifespan to control not only the wound not opening, but have them experience a better sensation and a better life, and not have to deal with this problem to begin with. Thank you very much.